Okay,
Living the dream.
I'm just jumping right into it. AEW Rampage Grand Slam, September 23rd, 2022. Eddie Kingston in the stupidest fucking outcome I've ever seen for a match in my goddamn life.
It really was.
The most popular wrestler in New York wins and then gets disqualified after he's won, and so no longer is the winner. In front of up to 20,000 fans chanting his name.
Yep.
This is a no-brainer.
I don't think. I'm sorry. I don't think anyone liked that ending. I didn't hear many people like that ending at all.
Nobody. And people who liked the show a lot more than I did. And I think the whole show was not that good. But that was just so fucking stupid. And that stupid booking is all over the show. And it's been like this for a long time with AEW. So much of the shows have been so good, and there's been so much else that you could enjoy in the show and look forward to that it didn't matter. But the fact is, they're afraid to have people lose. They have to have these wishy-washy endings all the fucking time on this show, on the last show, DQ endings or cheap shots, whatever it is. The main event in Rampage, Ricky Starks versus Will Hobbs, was a really good match. And then it ends with the fucking babyface hitting the heel with a foreign object. What the fuck is that? Because they don't want to have Will Hobbs take a legitimate loss.
Yeah.
Some people have to lose matches. And the problem is what happens now when you have this kind of booking, when somebody loses, it buries them. Because nobody ever fucking loses. Nobody ever actually loses. So when somebody does actually lose, it looks bad. And that's why you have like Jade Cargill, who is just propped up as this paper champion that doesn't really work and totally delegitimizes the TBS belt, beating people who are better than her. And then they get buried because nobody really loses except when it's against her. So everybody who loses to her is immediately pushed down the card because they look like shit because nobody loses except when they face her. It's fucking stupid. This whole Rampage was full of boneheaded ideas, backwards wrestling concepts. The first thing that happened, what was the first thing that happened last night? The baby faces jumped the heels from behind.
Yeah.
The last thing in the night is the babyface wins by hitting the heel with the foreign object. The first thing that happens is the babyfaces jump the heels from behind. It's fucking backwards.
Yeah. And it sucks too because like when we were watching it, like, and I understand that they started hitting the heels from the beginning, the first match, but we didn't really care because it was fun. We're like, all right, whatever. But what happens is the first two matches was okay. We're like, okay, this is actually kind of fun, even like when Sting and Darby, that was an excellent match, and it was just fun. And I understand you didn't like the ending with Sting picking the win again too, but I actually heard rumors that Darby's hurt, so that might be some reason why the ending changed. But either way, the two endings were fun and that. But then once Eddie Kingston happened and we saw that ending, I think that just kind of sealed the deal for us, and then we just said, fuck it. Like we just already had this negative mind because we're so mad. Why would you do that booking? Then everything else we just picked apart because you're like, well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Because it just set the tone. After that, it was just like, okay, why? If you just let him win at the pop, it would have been totally fine. We didn't need him beating up fucking 10,000 security guards. I really hate that fucking storyline when they do that to people. It just didn't have to. So once they happened, man, we just kind of like everything just went. The
security guard thing. I hate the security guard thing too. I hate the beating up 10 people at once thing. It's like, especially for a character like Eddie Kingston, his whole thing is he's like a realistic character. He's a guy from the streets who learned his toughness in the real world. He's not a fucking superhero who beats up 20 people at once. He's not Bruce Lee. Don't book him that way. What kind of nonsense is that? Nothing on this fucking show made any goddamn sense.
The thing that killed me is that at the end when he won, they had 20 people fucking surrounded him, just staring at him. Like, and then all of a sudden they just let him sit there for like 3 minutes. And then they said, oh, we're going to call the match. You had 20 people there. Just get him off. I have never seen that done. That's what I hate about it. This happened all the time in other bullshit matches, but they would never sit there and disqualify them after this and that. They just pull them off. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden now you're just going to do this because and they do this. I said this to you before, because I actually called it out. I said, you know what? I guarantee you they're going to let him win, but some reason it's still not going to count to him. They did it with Claudio match where like he actually had fucking Jericho tap out, but they made sure Claudio got it just in time. You know, they do this all the time with him, and I just don't know why they can't let him win. I don't know why they had 20 people just staring him. I'm like, and then the security shit really pisses me off because they come one at a time. You know damn well that's not real life. If they're fucking something's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all get it. It's script. But when you do with this shit, at least make it real.
I did venue security for years. That would never happen.
Yeah.
Me and one other dude could take down any one person. And I'm not a big guy.
Yeah.
All right. Professional security knows that, okay, these guys are supposed to be professional athletes and stuff. But like, come on. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Then it's just like after that, it just seemed like it went downhill. They had a lot of bullshit recordings. They had
well, it's the whole, you have a chink in the armor. As soon as they show that they don't seem to know what they're doing, now everything they do after that, it's like you're seeing something like, what are they doing wrong now? You can't help but look for it. They've already pointed out, like, we don't know how to do the most obvious, no-brainer ending on a match. Make everybody happy. He had crushed Sammy Guevara, 3 Oricans, and then taps him out. Not a bad ending. And then they ruin it. Just because they don't want Sammy to lose. They were trying to have both people win. AEW's problem is always trying to have their cake and eat it too, and they can't fucking do that.
And the thing that pisses me off is that we would not even pick apart the first 2 matches if they didn't have that. We probably wouldn't be as picky later on if they didn't have that stupid bullshit ending. So it just kind of made the whole entire event into a one-track mind now. Like, okay, what else are you going to do? And now you actually really fine-tuning shit of what to find and everything. And you're like, oh, come on, man. And then like you go back and saying, well, why didn't Action Bronson do this and that? Why did they attack this? We would have never mentioned. You would have never mentioned that they attacked them if it wasn't really like after we didn't get that Eddie Kingston ending. If the Eddie Kingston won, it would have been more momentum to the next match. You wouldn't fine tune everything.
You see every Jungle Boy and Ray Phoenix. Like Jungle Boy kind of won on the surprise roll up, which is like, it's still a clean ending, but it's one of those endings that like, oh, we want to give a little bit to Ray Phoenix still. Like that would normally be fine. Especially, I think this is the second time one of the trios people has lost a match, or they had the tag team lose after winning the belts. But like now in that same context, in the context of like all this weird booking where they're trying to save both competitors in every match, it looks weird, especially because Jungle Boy is on this big push. Why don't you have him win strong? Give him a definitive win. But now you look at this like, maybe that wasn't the best ending. Maybe it would have been fine if I don't know, if we didn't see all these other problems.
Yeah. It just seems, because I don't even after the Eddie ending, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember what the fuck happened. Like I'm so mad at that ending, and I'm so that yes, I remember the first 2 matches because I'm like, it was kind of fun, but then after that, I'm like, it just kind of like pissed me off, and then I said, I don't even give a shit anymore. So I kind of forgot most of the shit that happened. I remember that girl Trina being there, but I don't even remember what the fuck she did.
Nothing. She didn't do anything. There was no reason for her to be there.
Yeah. Even the last match, it seems like more and more people left. I remember that I was saying that like it's so because it fucking ended around 12:30 for them on Wednesday. So I mean, you're talking about, and if they recorded dark too, so that's like 6 hours, 7 hours.
Dude, the crowd was dead. And during the Battle Royal? Was that when you just start seeing people filing out, just like lines and lines of people just saying, fuck this, I'm going home. There was nothing compelling enough to keep them there. I'm sure a lot of them had the same feeling that you did, where like after Eddie lost, we're like, why the fuck are we still here? What are they going to give us? They already gave us this trash. We're going to spend the rest of our night, get home 2 hours later to see more trash. Fuck that, we're going home.
And as a viewer watching it at night, they had fucking like 3 picture-in-picture moments. They had 2 commercials during that Battle Royale shit. So now you have all these fucking people, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
it makes no sense.
It's a total mess. They constant interruptions. The last match too was supposed to be the main event. Constant interruptions for picture in picture. Everything about this Rampage was just a massive disappointment. I don't even know where like like it's hard to just pick one thing to talk about, you know?
Yeah, it's just and like I said, I'm trying to figure out like what the fuck happened after Eddie. What was the next match? Because I totally drawn a blank. Yeah, because I totally.
Actually, I'll start from the beginning. First match, as you mentioned, was Sting and Darby Allin versus the House of Black, which was fine. It was fun. It wasn't a match like that I had much investment in because I don't care about this feud anymore. But we enjoyed it. You know, Darby's always fun. Sting's always fun. Julia Hart is actually kind of fun, but that hat is ridiculous. Then there was Action Bronson and Hook versus Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Parker, which again was fun. Those guys are gimmicky, like, you know, the whole sports entertainer thing. Like they really live up to that that moniker. The whole Jericho Appreciation Society is a bunch of sports entertainers thing, and that this was a sports entertainment match with a rapper actually wrestling. He was fine. It was fun. That's all it had to be. Everybody did exactly what they had to do in this match. Then there was Wardlow and Samoa Joe versus Tony Nese and Josh Woods. Nobody cares.
What match did that happen on?
Wardlow and Samoa Joe versus Tony Nese.
But what was before that?
Action Bronson and Hook.
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason I thought that was after Eddie Kingston. Okay, so now not only are you like, like with the well, you know what? I can't even say that though. I'm not going to comment on Joe and Wardrobe because the crowd still loves them. So that's just my own preference. So I really can't get mad at that because it seems like every single time they come out, the crowd loves them. So it's just something I guess I'm missing.
On another card, this would have been fine. I think Tony Nese and Josh Woods are great jobbers. They're great heel jobbers. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. And it's sometimes can be fun to just watch them get beat by baby faces, but like Wardlow and Joe aren't like compelling baby faces the way that like who did they wrestle? Danhausen and the Best Friends. Like these are two big tough guys who are kind of like almost skirting the line between babyface and heel. So to watch them beat up these other guys isn't as much fun as more like likable baby faces. But on another card, this match would have been fine. On this card, it's just like, I don't care. Give me something else. You had first two matches were real sports entertainery, and then this was kind of in the same vein because it was just an enhancement match. It was just a way to get Joe and Wardlow on the not necessarily on TV, but in front of the New York crowd. And whatever, fine, gotta sell tickets, gotta get ratings. I don't give a shit. After that, Ray Phoenix and Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
Again, fine in any other context. It was constantly interrupted. This is a match that doesn't need 100 fucking interruptions. This is going to be a fun match with two guys who can really wrestle and really have exciting matches. And you couldn't see any of it because 50% of the match was the fucking commercial.
Yeah. That's one thing that I know we wanted to talk about one time is the picture in picture. As much as we joke about it, it fucking destroys the flow when you're watching it at home.
I can't watch picture in picture. That's pre-break time for me.
And the thing that kills me is that on a regular show, like let's say it's WWE having their show or any show for that matter, they'll have the same amount of commercials that AEW has, but when they add the picture in picture, they're adding on more. So now you actually have more time of commercials because you're not paying attention with that fucking 2-inch screen on the side. So now you actually have double the amount of commercials than any other show. And I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know why, because I know they're trying to say, oh, we're saving face because you could still see some of the act. No, because you still have the same amount of real commercials like every other one. So just have the real commercials and do it smart like with it because you suck at time management. Do it smart like when it's between fucking matches or something. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like the matches go on for like a half hour on the shows. So if you're doing it for like 10-15, have a 10-15 minute match, then have the commercial. You don't need all this bullshit promos that you don't even need anyway. Put the commercial there. You know,
who knows? That might have been a deal with the network that like, all right, if we're going to give you this deal, we need to have more ad revenue because who the fuck are you? Right? What is this new wrestling company? We don't know. And is it making them enough money now to be able to like renegotiate those terms. That could be the problem. But either way, it sucks. Don't give me, if you're gonna do that picture in picture a million times, do it during matches like the fucking Tony Nese Wardlow thing. You don't really need to see what happens in that match. Nothing is happening to make that match more compelling during the commercial.
How can you possibly get into that fucking battle royale bullshit when there's a whole millions of people when you had that many commercial breaks and picture breaks? You don't even know what the fuck happened. No. Then the only time it got good was when it was actually like there's like 3 people left, which I know most of them are, but you're looking at 20-minute match that fucking the last like 2 minutes was the only thing that was compelling to watch because you could not even see shit.
No.
You know?
And it was all right. Well, hold on before we do that. Next, after that was Eddie Kingston, Sammy Guevara. We talked about that. After that was Jade Cargill, Diamante. Who gives a shit? I'm tired of Jade Cargill. Never want to see her again. Diamante was actually great. Carried Jade Cargill. Mostly that was just an example of what's disappointing about the women's division. You've got Diamante, who's only on Dark ever, comes in as a jobber and carries somebody who's supposed to be a champion. She was 2 years ago with Ivelisse. They won a whole tournament, tag team tournament, and then all of a sudden Ivelisse is gone, and they've just buried Diamante on Dark. It's just disastrous booking for the women's roster. Oh, which comes right after Eddie Kingston versus Sammy Guevara, which just also highlights Ty Conti, who came from WWE where she was nothing, came to AEW, showed what she could do, became this great wrestler, and now is nothing. She's never in the ring. She's just Sammy's valet now. And they've totally botched her character. Yeah. They've got all these women who can go, and you don't see any of them ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, after Jade was the Battle Royal, what we were just talking about.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
You're right. Last 2 minutes were compelling. I loved the face-off between Roosh and Hangman. That said, Roosh could have used a little bit more of a push, but they did kind of make him seem legit, and he kind of has this star power that he just feels legit already. But the rest of this match, I don't know. Knuckle-headed shit from beginning to end.
They did copy a lot of Kofi Kingston stuff with
which was
a couple. Yeah, it was fine. I don't mind. It was fun. There was some fun parts where like they did it.
Yeah, Dalton Castle got thrown out and was caught by the boys. His entourage called the boys, and they carried him back in. The dumb thing with that, and I understand during a battle royal, there's a lot going on, so you can't really have everything go exactly according to plan. But in this case, Brian Cage, who I already don't like, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of Brian Cage. And why he was here, I don't know. He hasn't been on AEW in a year. And then, there's Brian Cage. But although I was very happy to see Dalton Castle, who did make a couple of appearances in AEW. But so they have this whole focus on Dalton Castle being thrown out by Cage. He gets caught. The cameras are focusing on the boys carrying Dalton Castle around. They put him back in the ring. And apparently, it seems like as soon as he gets back in the ring, he's supposed to go back after Cage and throw him out. Cage went and did something else. And all of a sudden, the momentum just stops. In the middle of this battle royal, where there's all this chaos, you're focusing on this one thing and then just stops because Brian Cage is in the wrong fucking place at the wrong time. Eventually, he finds Cage and throws him out. And that would have been cool if it happened with the right timing. But it didn't, because Brian Cage didn't know where the fuck he was supposed to be.
Yes. It's and then anyway, because that I really am not a fan of battle royals anyway, because it's a bunch of let's try to get everyone we can possibly into one match because we don't know what to do with them. Yep. And they all get some kind of TV. That's what I always think of it as on any company, anything besides Royal Rumble that's just done like good. Every other battle royale just to me sucks. It always has moments like this where you're like, you don't know what to do with them, so let's just fucking put them in a match. Then you said after that was Jade, and I honestly I don't even remember
that was before that. It was Jade.
Oh, okay, all right. What was that? Because I don't even remember that fucking match at all.
The other dumb things in the battle royal was like throwing Danhausen out early. I know Danhausen's not going to be booked strong. I know he's not going to win, but leave him in there to do some funny shit that'll pop the crowd. He didn't hardly do anything. He cursed somebody. He got thrown out. Keep him in there for a while. Have him throw out a Brian Cage. Have him throw out some big guys and like have the focus on him because the crowd will go crazy. It's so easy. I don't know shit about booking wrestling, and I'm having these ideas right now. because they were no-brainers, but they couldn't fucking do that.
Yeah.
Dante Martin.
Go ahead. Sorry. But the point with the Danhausen, it wouldn't hurt either because we know he's not going to win, like you said. So it doesn't matter if you let him throw out one or two people and no one else. Because first, to be honest with you, I don't know who fucking threw out who in that whole entire match because we watched nothing but picture-in-picture and fucking commercials. And then so I have no idea who threw out besides Brian Cage getting thrown out. That's the only person. And then the last two people, Rush and then Hangman Page. I don't know anyone else. I couldn't focus. I couldn't win. So at least if Danhausen did it, he's so compelling that the crowd would at least cheer and pop if he threw out someone. But like so, and it wouldn't hurt the whole ending. It wouldn't hurt the ending because everything in between doesn't really fucking matter.
And so keep that underdog in for a little while. That's always fun. That's always going to pop the crowd. Keep John Silver into like the last three people. Keep Danhausen into like the last three people. One of those guys would have been great, especially John Silver being a New York guy. Like there's so much easy shit they could have done, and they kept Silver in for a while. The way Dante Martin got just ragdolled out of the ring by Brian Cage is another fucking stupid thing. And it's one of the reasons I don't like watching Brian Cage because his old shit is like, look how he makes everybody else look like pieces of shit that can't wrestle. And Dante Martin, who's gotten this constant push, gets tossed out like he's a total chump by a guy who hasn't been there in a year. What the fuck is that? Just piss all over the push that you've done for the past 2 years with this guy. Fuck out of here.
What was next? Again, I don't remember anything.
After that's the main event. It's time for the main event.
Oh, okay. See, that's the thing. After Eddie, my mind became a mush that I don't remember shit. And that's like I remember bits and pieces. Like now that we're talking about it, but like when I woke up this morning, I said, "Man, there was nothing. All I remembered was, okay, that bullshit ending of Eddie. And I don't even remember. It took me a long time to figure out who the fuck the first two matches were because I was so mad at that Eddie ending. That's all I thought about. I'm like, why would they do that? And then so everything became all 2 hours of it. And we were actually, and I don't know if it's because of our expectations or this and that or whatever, but like we were looking forward to this week because like, oh, the card on paper looks amazing. Yeah. And then you just have all these moments and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, what the fuck are they doing? Yeah. It just seems very obscure of that you're still not giving really what the fans they want, and you think that with all the bullshit that's going around them, and all the stuff that's all the controversy and this and that, why would you not give the fans what they want? Yes, I understand that claim was, but the claim you wouldn't have to make a claim win if you fucking gave it to them anyway in the pay-per-view event. All the other shit didn't remember. Like we understood with Jericho winning, but then most hip hop fans, most wrestling fans know for a fact they're like, oh well, it sucks that Claudio had to fucking lose right away. You have the whole fucking thing with Cassidy. We're like, okay, the crowd was going for it. Chanted down. You couldn't just let him win and get a belt just because you didn't want Pac to leave, but he has the belt anyway with the trios, so it's not like he would still not have a belt. Like it's just things like that. It gets to me where if you're in a stride, you need to sit there and give new peoples a chance of trying to do not the same. It's the same still people. Everyone who won the belts, everyone who won the things, it's still the same exact scenario, and they need to try something. They need to try something different. Otherwise, it's not going to last.
And Pac and Cassidy, like that could have been that was another no-brainer to me. Like they wanted them both on the show, put them in separate matches, and then give them some kind of a build, and then they can meet again another time. But there was no reason to have Orange Cassidy have to lose that match on a Grand Slam event. Like this is one of those things where it's just like, everything seemed to be leading up to this show where it's like, okay, well, the fans are not going to get what they want at the pay-per-view, so we'll give them what they want at Grand Slam, which was presented as a much bigger event. That's going to have higher viewership. That's going to have higher attendance. So maybe, or what it seemed they were thinking was like, this will be a build to that. And they still didn't give us that. We were so disappointed from All Out. We wanted all these different outcomes. So Grand Slam comes along and they don't give us any of it.
And I used to keep on thinking like, okay, maybe we're just being too critical. Maybe we're just thinking, but like from what I'm reading, I don't think anyone liked the Eddie ending.
Nobody liked the Eddie ending.
I think I read a couple of sources. I think they all thought it was fucking stupid. And honestly, I think didn't like most of the grades weren't really that great too, from what people were saying around. What?
I'm looking at this one now. Well, we'll just go to the grades real quick. We have a B minus for Sting, Darby Allin versus House of Black. We got C plus for Action Bronson and Hook. We got C plus for Wardlow, Samoa Joe.
See?
Yeah, B plus for Ray Phoenix and Jungle Boy. And we talked about that. Like, that was a pretty enjoyable match. That was fun, but just the ending could have been better and there could have been fewer commercials. Eddie and Sammy, B minus. And again, I think that's like, the match was actually good. It was the end that was stupid and nonsensical. Jade and Diamante, C minus.
Okay.
C plus for the Battle Royale. And then the last match got an A minus, Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs. And again, I thought that was a pretty good match, but a dumb ending, an ending that also just didn't understand how the timing of this should have been. If at the end of the match, he did that spear through the table, instead of like, let's stop for a few seconds and do this whole like, should I hit him with the foreign object thing? And then he hits him and then does the Rochambeau and pins him. Like, why stop the momentum? Spear him through the fucking table. Put him up in the Rochambeau. 1, 2, 3, done. The crowd goes nuts. You have to pause. You have to give him this cheap win. And on top of that, why is this a lights out match? You have this card bookended by 2 no rules matches, right? The first match was a no holds barred match. The last match was a lights out match, which is not only no holds barred, but it doesn't quote unquote count in the rankings. So not only does Powerhouse Hobbs get away with losing because he's hit with a foreign object, he also doesn't actually have a loss in his record. So they're really covering his ass in this one. And to make this a lights out match as the main event, where the first match that was also a no holds barred match was way more of a no holds barred field, a no holds barred feel. In this one, it kind of diminishes this match too. Nonsense. 2 hours of nonsense.
I think the last match was good, and I think that we probably wouldn't be so critical if it wasn't for the Eddie ending. If that Eddie ending didn't happen, I guarantee we would have liked the last match a lot more. And
I think you're right.
Because of the momentum. So we're making it as we were so mad at the end, Eddie thing but I'm actually, again, I normally don't care what critics say and this and that, whatever, but it kind of validates the fact that we're not just bitching just a bitch. Apparently there was a lot of C's, a lot of B's, and like, so it seemed, and I've seen multiple sources too that are saying the same thing. And it just kind of makes no sense. They need, now that all these major people are out, either suspension or they're not coming back or whatever, I feel like now's the time for newer people, newer faces to get belts, newer people to get some shine. It's going to take some time because, I mean, they're not household names, but you have to give them some leeway. You have to give them a chance. You have to give them, and it's just it's the same shit. Everything was the same exact people.
A lot of wrestling is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say the women's division isn't getting good ratings, so you're not going to book it well, then it's going to never get good ratings. You have to book it well, and maybe you'll get the ratings up. You can't say like, oh, this guy is over, so we're going to keep on pushing him and not push other people. Like, if you don't know if they're going to get over. A lot of times, like a lot of people like me hated about WWE a few years ago. People like me who stopped watching WWE for reasons like this was like Roman Reigns. And a lot of people was like, well, he sells a lot of merch. Well, a lot of people still do like him. Like, yeah. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. They put him on the cover of everything. If you go to a wrestling show, a WWE show, is there Kevin Owens merch? Is there Dean Ambrose merch? They only have merch for like 5 wrestlers, and there's going to be 20 Roman Reigns shirts, and maybe there'll be a Kevin Owens shirt. There's definitely no Cesaro shirts.
Yeah.
If you make this guy seem like the top guy, then a lot of people are going to think he's the top guy. There were 2 people in watching WWE back then. People who wanted to see the best people get pushed, and people who are just going to like whoever is the biggest push because they're going to buy whatever is presented as the most important.
One of the major things I can't stand in all the companies, and it seems to happen in everywhere, is that when there's a crowd favorite, it's almost like they don't give a shit if they win because they know that no matter what, the crowd has their back. They're gonna still buy their merch. They're still gonna always cheer for them. So technically speaking, it's okay if they lose. But they do this every single time. I've seen this in every company.
Yeah.
They just like, okay, well, he's a crowd favorite, like Darby. How many times did Darby like lose or
Yeah.
So I just feel like when you're a crowd favorite, I think they have that mentality. Oh, no matter what, the crowd's still going to cheer for them. They're still going to love them. They're still going to buy their shirts and they're going to buy this. They're going to buy that. And the only reason why, I guarantee you, the only reason why they won the belts is because there was such backlash of the pay-per-view. If there was not such backlash, they probably still wouldn't have won the belts. They probably still wouldn't have,
No,
and
you're right.
So that's why because AEW fans they used to never ever show displeasure or disappointment in the actual crowds themselves, not internet, but the crowds themselves would always cheer for everything. Now I'm starting to see that there's actually more of a voice where they're starting to like boo shit and show shit because they're seeing the differences. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
There was a couple of things here and there. Obviously Cody, when he did his weird rah USA shit, they didn't like that, and after that Cody got less and less popular, and they booed the Nightmare, what was it called, the Nightmare Collective with Kong and Brandy early on, and rightfully so, and that sucked, and they got rid of it. But like, you really, with the people filing out at the end there, come on. AEW fans, like you said, they're diehard and they're really forgiving, but I think they're starting to lose them. And we're perfect examples. As much as we're complaining right now, people who, if anybody does listen, people who are going to listen to this, if they exist, are going to think, oh, you're just WWE fans and you're listening to Jim Cornette. No, I listen to Jim Cornette, but I don't agree with 90% of what he says. I don't like WWE. I haven't watched WWE in years. I probably watched 20 minutes of WWE in the last 3 years. I'm an AEW fan. I was there from the beginning. I want it to be better. I'm waiting for it to be better. And it's getting worse. And you see it. You see it, the whole backstage turmoil, not just with All Out, with Malachi Black leaving and saying how he wished he was still in WWE. Other people talking about wishing they were still in WWE. People are going to start leaving. That's probably a good thing, honestly, because less is more, I think, with AEW. When they try to like scoop up every single person from WWE, people who I don't think really wanted to be there, but didn't have an alternative. It's not like Daniel Bryan, who let his contract expire so he could come here. It wasn't like Moxley, who made a choice. It wasn't like Jericho, who had already left WWE, was doing New Japan. We're talking about people like Miro, Andrade, Malachi Black, people who didn't get re-signed were like, okay, AEW's second best. I guess I'll come over to you,
Yeah.
It cheapens it to me. It makes it feel second best. It's like that friend who never calls you until they need something.
Oh, I know that a lot. But I think though, like, my final thoughts is like, I think we're so passionate about it, and we comment on saying we're playing because we know it could be better, and like we see hope. There's some things that happen that they do. They're like, okay, this is really good, So I know they can do it. I know that there's a chance of them to do it. So I just want to see how it pans out. I want to see how with Paige being there. I want to see how with maybe what they do with certain other things if they listen to the crowd. I'm curious to see how Acclaim will be with the belts. So, I still have hope. I'll still watch. I'll still, whatever. And hopefully they get their shit together. It's still pretty early because of the whole turmoil. So it might take some time. Now they have to do different things because 5 or 6 people are not there anymore. Major people. So they have to rework things. So hopefully, hopefully next Wednesday will be better. Hopefully,
I hope so.
We'll see some kind of changes.
I hope so, because I'm like, I've never thought about this before, but after watching this week, I'm like, how much longer do I keep watching? How much more of this do I want to put up with? I had this relationship with WWE for years. I'm like, it's going to get better. It's going to get better, to where like, most of it's not going to get better, but I'll stick around. I'll watch a 3-hour Raw to get like 20 minutes of something I like Kevin Owens or Cesaro, But now with WWE's AEW is starting to feel like that to me. I don't know. You and I doing this, talking about it every week, makes it a little better because I enjoy this.
Yeah.
And that might keep me watching longer. But I got to believe that there's other people who feel like me, who are just like, Really? When are we going to get it? The other thing is 3 years, right? 3 fucking years. A lot of, I think, what made people stick around was like, well, they're still figuring it out. And it's fun to watch them figure it out. And it's fun to see them work the kinks out and learn as they go and get it right. But now it's like they're getting it wrong more and more often. 3 years, there's no more feeling like, well, they're still figuring it out. There's no more of that excitement of like being there along for the ride while it grows. It's grown and it's growing into an asshole.
Yeah.
This is your,
like I said,
asshole bratty kid.
But we'll see what happens on Wednesday. That's pretty much all I have to say, especially since time is running out. So
time is running out. That's the theme
for everything.